Many, many people have questions, and very serious questions.
So perhaps he was born in this country, and that has a very big chance. Or, you know, who knows?
You really believe this guy's an illegitimate president?
I don't want to answer the question. Who knows about Obama?
His mother was a U.S. citizen born in Kansas. Was he a natural-born citizen?
Who knows? Who knows?
Well, we all did. But when you lay out years and years of Donald Trump's birther attacks like that, it's easy to notice a pattern. He never quite goes all in, rhetorically speaking. As he would tell it, he's just asking the question, the racist, baseless conspiracy theory question. So if you think of the Trump kids as hostages to their own DNA, it should surprise no one that Donald Trump Jr. started asking the same kind of questions the president's son-in-law retweeted from an alt-right online personality, saying Kamala Harris wasn't, quote, an American black because of her ancestry, with the comment, "Is this true? Wow." And people noticed. Donald Trump Jr. later deleted that tweet, and a spokesperson for him, imagine that job, later called it a misunderstanding, adding this, quote, "Don's tweet was simply asking if it was true that Kamala Harris was half Indian, because it's not something he had ever heard before." And once he saw that folks were misconstruing the intent of his tweet, he quickly deleted it. And oh, by the way, while we're talking about Kamala Harris, just in the last hour, brand new polling conducted over the weekend after the first debates has her surging into second place, just 5 points behind first place Joe Biden. Joining our conversation, Alicia Menendez, co-host of PBS's I'm Important Company and contributing editor for Bustle. What do you think's going on here, my friend?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, so many things going on that I feel like we need to
unpack it all. Take your time.
So you go back to February. Kamala Harris was on this radio show, The Breakfast Club, and at the time she called this out. She said, "I'm going to face the same questions about whether or not I'm black enough that Barack Obama faced." That's one piece of it, right? Then you have the birtherism piece.
Because women always know, right? Like, we always know what's coming. We could write the attacks on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And so she did. I mean, and now there's the birtherism question getting a second life, which is meant to discredit her candidacy. What's even more dangerous, should she win this primary, should she win this general, is that it then discredits her as a leader and becomes an ongoing conversation throughout what would be her presidency. And then there's this other piece of it, which is that we are not prepared to deal with disinformation, right? I mean, this tweet goes out. There's then a universe of botnets that retweet it. And then on top of that, I mean, you have someone very close to the president of the United States retweeting it. That does not help. But this is a structural issue on top of all of the other issues that we have not fully grappled with.
Yeah, I was watching that montage of Trump, and it made me incredibly sad because I'm part of the problem, I admit it fully, but if you think back, you know, here was a man who wasn't yet a candidate for president, who was spouting ostensibly racist lies about the president, and he got a megaphone. He got a megaphone from me. He got a megaphone from a lot of other people. He wasn't challenged fully enough, and he wasn't called out for what it was at the time. I think we've learned an important lesson. I'm glad that we're calling it out as racist because it objectively is. But it does get to your point, which is, what do you do with disinformation? Is it enough to just call it out? Where do you put it on a telecast like this? I'm happy that we talked about North Korea first because that's more important. But this is a press story.
Maybe not. Do you think we should have started with this? I'm open to...
I don't know. These are incredibly difficult editorial decisions that we grapple with every day. I wish people understood how difficult they were because there's incredibly strong opinions about what we should do with it. But it's complex. And how do you just ignore the president's son pushing a racist theory about...
Well, we didn't ignore him, but
no,
I mean...
You have to call it out for obvious reasons. You have to call untruths, and you have to call racism. The question is, how do you contextualize it? Where do you editorialize it? And so on.
And let me follow up. And how do you make sure that everyone... I mean, there are people that follow Donald Trump Jr. on Twitter, let's face it, who don't watch the 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So how do you get to the end of...
So that's a question for Twitter. You know, what we can control is the mediums that we're on and where we write and talk. But, you know, everyone in this universe that we occupy, and it's a vast universe, has to really think about what they did when Donald Trump did this to Obama and whether that was the right position, and what they will do going forward when it happens to Kamala Harris.
This is a case study for what we're going to have to go through for the next year plus of this campaign, because in talking to Trump's advisors, they are determined to run a brutal campaign modeled after the win in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, and whoever the nominee is, whether it's Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, they are going to be pulverized by Trump and his allies and his machine, his political machine, on social media and everywhere. I don't know that they're all prepared for it. The Democrats are, and it's going to be a challenge for them as well as for the media and for social media institutions to try to police false information that's out there. But it's going to be a brutal year for us.
It's an extraordinary sign of the weakness of the case that Donald Trump has to take to the public, that he's so reliant upon the lies and the racial smears. It's a sign of incredible trepidation, fear that his prospects heading into 2020 are worse than his prospects in 2016. He's behind, I think, all of the top-tier Democrats we just showed. And he doesn't have a case to take to the public. Whatever you think of the wall, that was his big idea. Whatever you think of just about everything except judicial appointments, you can argue that he followed through on that. But he does not have a case to take to the public. He needs these smears.
That's exactly right. And to your earlier question, the story, in my opinion, and you all are professionals at this, the story is that the president's son advanced a racist narrative on social media that was amplified among the president's followers. Because when Kamala Harris said it didn't work last time, it's not going to work this time, there's a lot of it that did work last time. There is fertile ground within today's Republican Party to accept this narrative, and so the president's son knew that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done that. He was stoking the flames within a party where they have given permission for this type of racism. I think the other story coming out of it, it's a remarkable contrast between Donald Trump and Trump Jr. as one candidate and every other Democrat who denounced it. Because understand what Kamala Harris did on Thursday night is she hurt two people very badly. She drew blood from Joe Biden, and she showed that she can go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. Joe Biden responded saying it's wrong to peddle this racist narrative. This is wrong. He called out the racist narrative. Donald Trump's family actually amplified it. And that's the contrast between the two camps.
And if you extend, I mean, that's a great point. If you extend that to the difference between the two parties, I mean, that is the choice. There is now an entire party that stands for the amplification of racist smears.
That's it.
And there is an entire party that they're fighting. That's a brutal primary fight. I mean, they're being civilized to one another because they view that in the interest of the party, but they all want it badly. I mean, that is as stark of a contrast
Trump
as we have.
Jr. offered an excuse, not an apology.
Right.
And you better believe if this was somewhere in the other direction, Donald Trump would have been all over Twitter denouncing exactly what happened. This is part of their brand.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.